responsive. While some progress has been made, it is clear to me that much needs to be done. Secondly, as part of the initiative, we are placing an increased emphasis on mitigating drought impacts for long-term drought resilience. We have worked closely with partners who are here with us today, the Food and Agriculture Organization, the World Meteorological Organization, the Global Water Partnership, the United Nations Environment Programme, and the University of Nebraska to develop a drought toolbox with a range of effective technical and policy options to analyze vulnerabilities and monitor drought. This will help countries guide and prioritize drought mitigation interventions. We will have the launch of the toolbox this afternoon. Thank you all for your invaluable contribution. What is more fascinating is that many of the drought mitigation measures presented in the toolbox are technically doable and evidence-based. Going forward, increasing drought is one of the major risk factors that could impede the achievement of SDG 15, and especially our ambition for land degradation neutrality if drought is not tackled appropriately. From the toolbox, we could imagine drought insurance that lowers the premiums of stakeholders who sustainably manage the land. And here I would like to thank again the African Risk Capacity and its Director General, as well as his representative here. Together, we have the knowledge and experience to prevent drought from becoming a crisis. Partnerships are key in that respect. And I'm sure you all know this famous saying and wisdom from Africa. And I have two African women on the podium here. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Can we go faster and further together? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Executive Secretary. I think we have the stage set. We have a day that's important for us. The drought decision is going to be reviewed at the contact group. This COP is going to make bold decisions, and we have to be inspired for the actions in the future. This is being called since the high-level meeting on drought, on the National Drought Management Plan that was occurred in 2013 in Geneva, the COP in Namibia, the COP in Turkey, the COP in China, and now here. It's a growing momentum that calls for action. And we want to hear from this remarkable woman that is upcoming panel. I think all men are welcome to leave the panel now, the podium now. And Samia will take the floor as the moderator. And I would like then to invite, yes, thank you very much. Let's give a round of applause for our remarkable panel. Thank you, madam. Great pleasure. Thank you so much. 1 minute for refreshing. And I would like to invite to the podium Madame Caroline King Okumo from the Center for Ecology and Hydrology of the United Kingdom. Madam Hindu Umarub Ibrahim, environmental activist and coordinator of the Association of Po Women and Autochthonous People of Chad. And Madam Lorena Aguilar Revelo, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica. We are very much interested to listen from your perspective. I don't know, Samia, if they managed to put back your mic, otherwise you'll have to use this one. But I would prefer that colleagues from the backup room put back Samia's mic, because then they can be more comfortable in the panel. While we check that everything is running okay, we would like you to bear with us for a couple of minutes. And Samia, let's. Okay. Very good. And I leave this floor with a big thank you.
They're designed for men, and making it big work fix it.
Am I heard? Excuse me? Can you tell me if it's on? Excuse me? When you push what happens? No, it's on.
Okay, turn this. You can put it there.
Stuff with all these.
No, but you can be heard. Are you okay? Okay, good morning, everyone. Can you hear us? Yes, okay. Good morning once again. We'll continue with our discussion on drought preparedness with three wonderful women. We have a scientist, we have an activist, if I may call her that, yes, and we have a decision maker. So three very important roles to play in making things happen. Perhaps we can start with our scientists. Ms. Caroline King-Okumu, who's with the Center for Ecology and Hydrology. And we want to hear her perspective, but I also want to know from her is, have we listened to our scientists sufficiently? And have we been able to fuse scientific knowledge with indigenous knowledge so that we make the best use of our brains and our minds?
Thanks so much, Samia. I hope the microphone is working.
Yeah.
It's great to be here on this podium with these fantastic ladies. We have an intractable challenge in the Drought Challenge. We have a short time before lunch, and we can easily solve this problem with this panel. We'll start with the perspective, which is a scientific perspective, and also I would hope to bring a field-based perspective to this discussion, because we've made a lot of speeches now, and we really need to start talking about how to make things work. So just in order to help me to do this, I want to share some photographs, if someone will help me from the technical side, from an experience working with traditional knowledge in the customary institutions in northeastern Kenya. So I would like to talk about the challenge to address drought in a particular context, where in the past we have had institutions with a lot of knowledge, but they have been very male-dominated institutions, and there is a challenge to involve women in contemporary decision-making to address the drought challenge. And here is an insight on how it worked in this particular context. Next slide. When we provide guidelines and normative instructions about how to make policies and how to involve women in policies, we set targets and we demand that our development projects do things differently, include women. It sounds wonderful as a principle, but in practice it is so hard to change the way that things are done. Here is an example of a project where colleagues in Kenya tried extremely hard to achieve a balanced participation in a strategic planning process. I'm so proud of the results that they achieved in including a good proportion of women in the technical and political process for preparing a strategic plan to manage water, energy, and climate change in a very dry part of Kenya. It's not perfect. We did not achieve a 50-50 participation from the technical institutions and the political institutions, but I think that some progress was made in this context. That's why I would like to share it. For the next slide. In this slide, I want to show a picture of what it looks like to have a participatory discussion about how to prepare for drought in a dry part of Kenya. We asked the community to include the women in the community meeting. You can see here there are a few women. They're not sitting on the uncomfortable plastic chairs. They're sitting on the floor. We have a male facilitator. This is what it looks like, and I think this is actually a quite good example. I would like to say that this young guy who is facilitating the meeting is a tremendous champion of the gender-sensitive approach to drought policy making and inclusion. When we first started talking about involving women in this political process, he was not that keen on the idea. And when we talked about the targets and the demands to do things differently, it looks very challenging to do things differently. But little by little, he started to do it, and we started to find that it was quite fun to involve women. They became more vocal. The next slide, please. And he managed to organize focus groups where women were able to take part in the planning process. It required quite a lot of additional thought, expenditure, just to think about how women have constraints that can prevent them from being part of the decision-making process, what it is you need to do to make them comfortable and to make them welcome and to give them a chance to express their views in this process, whether it's to do with childcare arrangements, the timing of the meeting, various other practical things. It takes a lot of energy to reorganize the ways that things are done. Next slide. This is a community meeting where there are women in the room, but you can see that they're mostly at the back of the room. The planning officer is at the front of the room. He is male, all his staff are male. We're talking about a process that is well established and that we are talking about changing, essentially. Next slide. So in this meeting, due to effective facilitation, some good things happened. We did have young women stepping up and talking about the need to address problems differently. Next slide. And finally, we had a very high rate of participation because people really were committed to changing the ways that things are done. Those are my photos. This is my thank you photo showing one of the participants in the meeting pointing out the need to change the arrangements for water supply to the schools in one of the areas where women are walking too far to collect water. This is a snapshot. I hope to encourage the meeting that we can address these problems, that if we start in our imperfect situations and we try to move forward, that can happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So participatory, thank you so much. Thank you so much. So participatory discussions, championing a gender-sensitive perspective helps, indeed, yes. Thank you. Now, I think let's hear from our activists before coming to our decision maker. Let's hear from Ms. Hindu Umaru Ibrahim from Chad, who I've heard your wonderful presentation the other day, but maybe now you can give us more of your perspective and ideas.
Thank you, Samira. It's working?
It is working.
Okay.
I think.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Just to tell you a good news. Just to tell you, African women are ready, and all the women are ready. So be sure. We are in front of this battle, and we will never give up. So you have your good news. But let me tell you how we are ready and how we will never give up. I'm coming from a Sahel regions, who's the regions the most impacted by the drought, by the advance of the desertification, increasing by the climate change. The region where you hear the last couple of months, there was a fight in Mali, in Burkina Faso, where community fighting just for the resources. They kill each other's, hundreds of the peoples. And all those consequences, you have migrations. I'm not talking about international migrations, because this is only hundreds of thousands of peoples. I'm talking about the internal migrations inside the regions of one country or inside the countries of Africa, where man have to migrate to another place in order to find resources for his peoples, for his families, because it's the human dignity for us. And this drama, when they leave, who they left behind? Those are the women and children. Those are the ones who are left behind. And let me tell you, those women they leave behind, they becoming a hero. They are my hero, because they are my mom, my aunties, my cousin, who are back home, who have to fight by them own to ensure the role of man who are not there, and then the role of women as mother, as wife, as sisters. So those women, they are the one who wake up the first, who sleep the last, who sacrifice them own food in order to give them children and the old peoples. And at the end, they become innovators, they become solution makers, they transform this degraded land where they do not have a land rights, not officially, not unofficially. The small piece that they get, they transform it in a gold. Because for them it's the matter of survival. And then they produce a food sovereignty for them own communities. So those women, what I do with them in my small organization, in one community, they use them hand, them 10 fingers to cultivate the land, to transform the peanuts into the butters into the oil. And then they sell it to next market, who is one day every week. And they exchange it to feed them communities. So I say, why not to help them to transform this one with the small technology? And you will see the magic of those communities. In only 6 months, believe me, they double them income. And I'm so proud. The numbers is small, but they just to think about sending them girls to school. Because in my communities, there is no people who's going to school. They send most of the time the boys, but never the girl. In this community, they are sending now 6 little girls who in the next maybe 20 years will become Hindu or more than Hindu. So how the women, if you empower them a little bit, can change the life not only on themselves, but the entire communities, and they change the system and the country. Another example, we do the 3D participatory mapping, who is a tool who can help the man and woman to come together. But how we can give the voice to the women, that was the strategy. So in this 3D mapping, you don't need to go to school. You have just to understand your land, and then they are the master of the land. They don't need the PhDs because they have the PhDs. They know them lands. So we build this 3D mapping. We figure out the traditional knowledge. And man come, they put the bigger repair. They know where is the river. They know where is the mountain. They know where is the areas that they graze. And you call the woman with the permission of the man, of course. And then when they come, you ask them, is it man arrived in this place? And then they start. Here is the place where we collect water. Here is the place where we collect food. Here is our traditional medicine. So it's changed all the map that build up. And we ask the man, are you agree with the woman? And they just like shut up, say they are right, they are right, they are right. So that was the beginning of empowering the woman and not making the man down, but making them at the same level, telling them that together you are more stronger because women have the special knowledge that you do not have. So through the building knowledge together, building partnership together, putting them together, we figure out it's moving the community beyond only changing the traditions, but changing them in the good way. So what we can do in this international arena where we really understand is very important. We are at the COP, where my community do not know what is COP meaning, what is adaptation meaning, what is mitigation meaning, because we don't have those terms in our languages. So for them, how we can transform this word we create into the practice that they are living on it. This is the most important for me, because when I go back home, I can tell them mitigation, it means what?
Yes.
So that's what we need to do, giving the access to the women to the funding, direct access. And when I say direct access, it's not creating a project where they have to justify by the criteria they didn't went to school, they cannot do that. Give them trust, confidence, and they will show you the real impact and the real change in the life. That's all what we need. Second, give them the voice. Of course, having Hindu, Samira, ministers, scientists here is good. But how about the other panels? We don't need to say we want to have gender balance and having like, yes, here we have at least, okay, one woman is there, we are sure. No, it's not an issue of numbers. No. It's issue of equality. Give the voice of all women, including the women in the rural areas. We are there, we are ready, we are knowledgeable. It's the same planet, it's the one we are sharing all together. So we must decide together in order to have a sustainable decisions. So when we ensure those two things, I think the others will come immediately. So I'm leaving you with that, but please think about giving a woman's rights, empowering her is empowering the entire communities. And I tell you again, as women, we never give up. We will come with the solutions. Even the world is stop, we will never stop. It's the issue of the survival, it's the issue of our communities. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. Absolutely. As women, we never give up. Yes, I can vouch for that. And we must never give up indeed. Thank you for this passionate appeal for equality. So in addition to participation, in discussions, but women, yes, we need all different kinds of women to lend their voice. And as you rightly said, and we need peace. Peace is so important. the absence of peace, like drought, displaces, impoverishes, so we need peace badly, not just in the African continent, but everywhere. So now we want to turn to a decision maker. Now we've heard from activists, we've heard from people on the ground. How can decision makers absorb all this and translate it into policies, perhaps, that would make the conditions of our people, especially those affected by drought, land degradation, better? So we have here with us Ms. Lorena Rivello, the Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs of Costa Rica.
Thank you, Samina. Well, I have to say that the first thing is that I have been in the seats of my other two colleagues before being in the position that I am. I